Hey everybody, welcome back to the Psychology of Business podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brandon Griffin. Joining me in my studio today is Jesse Gale. Jesse, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Brandon.
Wonderful. So Jesse has been working on a new company. He has a lot of experience in this area, but he has recently started up Revive Executive Branding. And I wanted to bring him on and I wanted to talk about what executive branding is, what he does, who it's for, and just everything executive branding. So Jesse, could you give us a little bit of background about who you are, why you started Revive Executive Branding, what you want to do with it?
Yeah. I'm Jesse Gale. I'm the founder of Revive Executive Branding. Um, Kind of a backstory. I worked for another company that did the same thing. There just came a time where we needed to part ways. I felt like there's a better way to do things, and I learned a lot though. I learned a lot from that company. I respect them there, and I ended up going to my wife, and she grew up with a dad that's an entrepreneur, and we had the idea to start our own company, and it just kind of fell into place. So what happened with us, honestly, is I quit my job, and the next day my wife told me she was pregnant, and so we were jobless and had a baby on the way, and then things just started going.
Did you rethink your life decisions? Did you want to stop the entrepreneurship thing when you found that out?
Yeah, it was really scary, to be completely honest. It was a huge weight on my chest because I had never felt the weight of being a dad until that moment. And I was really excited. Don't get me wrong. We were trying, but we didn't think it was going to just work out like it did. And so we were just trying to figure everything out. But then we started Revive Executive Branding. And do you want me to go into what Revive Executive Branding is?
Yeah, so first, I think a lot of people have heard what executive branding is. They kind of have an idea where it's where you craft an image of someone and, headshots, LinkedIn, resume, but what actually is executive branding? So if I'm someone who's, at the middle level of an organization, if I'm at the VP level and I'm looking to make that jump into the C-suite and I'm looking at executive branding, what is it?
Yeah. So the way that we think of executive branding, it gets confusing, right? A lot of people talk about brands in different ways. You can think of a brand for a company, but we're talking about personal branding. So what executive branding really is it's all the steps it takes and all the ways that people learn about you before you're able to talk to them face to face. So your LinkedIn profile, right? Over 90% of recruiters and headhunters still use LinkedIn as their main source to get candidates. So we take care of the LinkedIn. We advise them on headshots using different companies for headshots, but we do the background, backdrop, the graphic design there. We do all the content, and we do it all for them, right? We'll go into their LinkedIns and do it for them if they'd like, or we send it to them. We just make it look really clean. And then naturally what a headhunter will do for a VP or a C-level executive is they'll ask for an executive biography, a one-pager about themselves, who they are, before they talk, and then they'll interview them. And then they'll ask for a resume, right? If they think they're a good fit. And then what we really do is make sure that they're ready to go. So they're really easy to sell for recruiters to sell them pretty much to these companies, their clients, right? So we take care of the LinkedIn, the bio, the resume, and just make sure that they're completely ready to go. And then we'll give them updates too, because the brand is naturally evolving as they get more experience, they get more time under their belt in the C-suite. And we do that all for them so they don't have to.
So you're helping people craft a professional image, because I think a lot of people have, if they use LinkedIn, they have LinkedIn presence, but you are professionals at just making it that next step where, someone has experience, but you're just crafting them in a way that recruiters or organizations can really just pick them out and highlight what they're good at and help them make that next step, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I was just talking to a recruiter that's been recruiting for over 30 years, and a really good way that he put it was, your brand is what other people are saying about you and thinking about you when you're not in the room. And so most of the time we don't realize that we can't control when somebody's going to look at our brand and look us up. And we need to make sure that we're ready at all times so we don't miss out on career progressions.
And I think everyone naturally wants to progress in their career. I mean, who doesn't want to be a CEO, climb the corporate ladder, have all the benefits that come from that? But who should do executive branding? Who's your clientele that you're trying to work with?
Yeah, our main client base is VP or higher. So um, we we work with people in other areas, other roles, right? A lot of directors work with us because they want to get to the VP level. Also, there's that terminology change where, depending on the industry, a director might be higher than a
Yeah.
VP, right? But really, it's anybody that wants to be proactive. It's kind of that thought process of, do I want to be ready so that if there's a chief operating officer role that's available, do I want to be ready for that, or am I okay to miss it? So all the proactive people that are really trying to take control of their future right now and not just wait, those are
Hmm.
typically our clients.
And obviously, the getting a job at the higher upper levels of management is going to be a lot different than lower levels. So, is do you find that most roles are they found by executive recruiters? So I can't just submit my resume for CEO for C-suite. Do you find that most people need this branding because people are getting headhunted by recruiters? Is that how that works?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can always apply online. Sometimes there are C-suite roles on LinkedIn, for example. I'm going to be completely honest. This is my personal opinion. Most of the time, those positions are already filled. It might just be a legality or something that they need
Mm.
to post it for X amount of days. I could be wrong. That's what I've been seeing. Um, Now, when it comes to finding the opportunity, it's mostly headhunters, right? You need to be handpicked for the C-suite. So I interview recruiters every Friday and just get an idea of what they're looking at. We've actually had times where I was speaking to a recruiter at Corn Ferry. She'd been there for over 10 years, and she brought up one of our clients on the call, talking about how she was trying to place a CTO. And she brought up his name, and I was actually like, "That's actually our client. How'd you find him?" And then we went over how she found him on LinkedIn, and she was handpicking people for this position, and just really that's just how the process works right now. That personal touch that a lot of recruiters are trying to have, especially at the C-suite. VP, it's kind of split, right? You might be applying online and needing to go through tracking systems with your resume so that AI doesn't bump you out.
Hmm. So you brought up your client who met with the recruiter at Corn Ferry. So walk us through one of your success stories. What's the process like? How did they get involved with you? What did you do with them? And what was the outcome? Let's talk about some of your success stories.
Yeah, so one of our clients earlier this year, he was looking for a new role. He was a VP in marketing. A lot of people wouldn't expect that people in marketing would also work with us, but pretty much what we see is most people are great at telling other people's stories, but not the best at telling their own, right? So we worked with a lot of
Mm.
CMOs, and this guy was a VP. He wanted to find a new opportunity, and he wanted to jump to the C-suite. So we actually found each other on LinkedIn, and we just had a simple conversation and talked about his goals, and we worked on his resume, LinkedIn, his bio. And he actually had Corn Ferry, Spencer Stewart, Heidrick and Struggles reach out to him, and they saw his resume and they loved it. And so it's actually one of our reviews online. And he was placed as a CMO about a month and a half after he started working with us, which is a pretty awesome success story. We don't promise that will happen, but I mean, the job market in the U.S. right now is about 5 to 6 months to find a new role, and that's not really talking about the
Mm.
C-suite. C-suite usually takes a little bit longer, and he landed one in a month and a half because it was easy money for the recruiters. They knew exactly what he could do. He was easily marketable. They sent over his resume; he was already ready and on hand, and he was in a new role.
That is awesome. So I think that a lot more people should take advantage of executive branding. Obviously, you think people should do it. You're in that business, but let me push back a little bit. So if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I've been a professional my whole life. My wife has a nice camera, or maybe I just got the brand new iPhone. Why do I need to hire someone to do that for me? What's so special about you? Why can't I just sit down, make everything look good? Why can't I just do it myself? What sets you apart from others?"
Yeah, so there's really two things. So, first of all, most of our clients don't have the time to do it on their own, right? They're busy over 90% of the time.
Mm.
They're working 60 to 80-hour work weeks, and then they want to go home and spend a weekend with their family, right? So we take care of all of that for them. So that's a big thing there. Another reason why it's so beneficial to work with us, I would say, is because we have over 10 years of experience. Our team does. So even though we are a newer company, we're not new and naive to the industry and the market. So we really study and focus on what's going to be best. So you could try taking care of your resume on your own. Sometimes it works. Don't get me wrong. If somebody really wants to do it on their own, that's great. But if you don't want to risk it, because there's networking that is involved, there's interviews that are involved, and prepping for all these different areas of finding a new role, sometimes it's really just nice to have that peace of mind of my resume, my brand is taken care of. Now I just need to sell myself in person, and I'll get the role. So that's really why I would say most people work with us is time and that peace of mind that they're doing the things they need to, and they don't have to worry about it.
Have you found that different industries, whether it be, manufacturing, a larger service industry, SaaS, do you feel like you have to cater what you're doing towards the specific industry that someone's looking at?
Yeah, I would say the nice thing about executive branding is it's so personalized that it's almost a similar process with each client. We've worked in every industry and all across the US. We focus in the US specifically. We don't work with a lot of people in Europe or South America, but I would say the nice thing about it is because it's so personalized, and we have the experience that when we hop them on the phone with our writer and we give them a customized process and make multiple drafts for them and ask them specific questions based on their industry, then they don't have to worry about it too much. It's a really common concern though. The common concern is, well, do you have experience in this industry? I have this very specific background. And when it all boils down to it, when you have experience in those different industries, it's not a huge setback to do it. It just might take another draft or two to make sure that they love it and it talks and speaks how they would.
Well, good. So I want everyone to go to Revive Executive Branding. But if someone's watching this and they're not ready for that jump from VP to C-suite or director to VP, do you have any tips for people to improve their brand now? And obviously there comes a point when you have to outsource, right? When you have to hire a professional to bring yourself up to that professional level. But do you have any advice for anyone, a college grad who's just trying to start up their brand? You have a couple pieces of advice for them that would help them?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing as well, is if you're just barely getting out of college and you want a resume, you don't really need a professional team taking care of it. Sadly, you can't just use ChatGPT, even though it does it so fast. There's actually a lot of tracking systems that if they can detect that ChatGPT wrote it, they'll just boot you out of the system and you'll never get an interview. But what I would say, a big thing that people don't know, and I mean, I didn't know it until I got in this, but is when you're applying to a position, you have to make sure that your skill sets match the job description, like almost perfectly, right? Because the company will say, hey, we're looking for an 80% match. They put it into their system. They'll put in the skill sets that are necessary. But if you worded your skill sets differently, right, then you're going to get booted. Or if you put in too many, skills that you have in the application, but they're not in the resume, the system will detect that you're quote unquote lying. Right. And then you won't ever get an interview. So kind of just free advice is making sure that you're not using your resume as a one size fits all. You need to customize that resume for different opportunities and actually give it some thought. I've talked to a lot of people that, just spam all these job applications and they've been looking for months, and just giving them simple advice of, hey, think about, being more controlled and concise and methodical about how you're applying, and knowing what they're looking for specifically so that they don't have to miss out on an opportunity to work with you. Because most of the time people have the experience, they just don't know how to apply.
I think that's great. So have you had any unexpected challenges or things that have been really hard with executive branding? What's been one of the hardest things about either being an entrepreneur or working in executive branding?
Oh, there's been a lot. I mean, there's a lot with being an entrepreneur and being the founder, like having a kid right in the middle of it. But I would say one of the challenges that you'll find in any service-based type of organization is some people will want you to do it, but they have in their mind exactly how they want it done, right? So that's a challenge that I think a lot of people see is, hey, if you want to trust us to do it and you're trusting we have the experience and the knowledge and the skill sets to do it, let us do it, because that's what we do every day, all day. But there are some people that, will buy a service or have somebody clean their home and they'll tell them how to clean the whole house. In all reality, it's just a waste of both people's time because they're ending up doing the cleaning anyways. So that's one hurdle you wouldn't expect. But just growing a company, making sure the company culture is strong, and and that people are happy, because we're very fortunate. We have 100% client satisfaction. So we've never worked with somebody that doesn't love working with us. And I think that's because we kind of overcame that hurdle of how do we treat our employees? How do we treat our company? How do we treat our clients? And we've just been very lucky to have some pretty awesome people working with us. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but those are just my initial thoughts on that.
I think that's great. A couple last questions I have is how long is the process for executive branding? Is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months? How long is the time frame?
Yeah, it usually takes a couple weeks. It can go faster, but typically with the level of clients that we have, a VP, an SVP, or a CTO of a company, they're gonna take maybe 3 or 4 days to respond to us because they're overwhelmed and swamped in an acquisition that's going on or something. So 2 weeks is a pretty safe bet. We get back to them as quickly as we can, but we don't have any deadlines. So I actually have one of our clients started working with us last September. He just got back to me like 2 weeks ago. And so we just got him started right on in that process again. And so that's what the typical timeline is, though. A week and a half to 2 weeks is a pretty safe bet.
Wonderful. So Jesse Gale from Revive Executive Branding. On your way out, do you want to give us your pitch? Why should I do executive branding? Why should I choose Jesse Gale with Revive Executive Branding?
Yeah. So I would say if you ever owned a lawn, you can't control who's looking at your lawn, right? So most people keep their lawn mowed, they keep it trimmed, they have their trees and their bushes trimmed nice because they never know if somebody's going to come by and offer cash for it, or it's going to be somebody they're trying to impress. You can't control who comes to your house, but you can control how it looks. And so that's the same thing with executive branding. You can't control when somebody's going to look you up on LinkedIn. And if you want to be able to kind of take control and really limit some variables there, that's where we come in. And our team just is honestly an amazing experience to work with. So that's why I'd say you'd want to work with us.
Wonderful. Well, Jesse, thanks so much for coming on the Psychology of Business podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Wonderful. Well, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and go. If you are looking for executive branding, reach out to Jesse Gale with Reach out to Jesse Gale with Revive Executive Branding. But you have a great day and happy learning.